Shelli's journey took her from living her dream on the dazzling stages of Cirque du Soleil, embodying the spirit of the running woman, to a career-altering accident during rehearsals which left her questioning her identity. But Shelli didn't let that defeat her. She has since emerged as a beacon of hope and evolved, using her unique experiences to guide and support athletes through the transitions beyond their sport careers, proving that sometimes the most profound lessons come from the University of Hope. So, join me as we evolve through the life of Shelli Epstein.
Just a little bit of a backstory. I started my career out as a gymnast. So my mom put me in baby gymnastics at 6 months old. I had a lot of energy and she thought that would get rid of my energy. Nope, didn't help. Gave me more energy, resented me for it. And then at the age of 4, I had fallen in love with the sport, got selected for the squad, and I trained at a high level until I was 12. At 12, it was the first time I had that natural instinct where that fire diminished a little bit, and I knew that wasn't what I wanted to continue doing. And my parents were never ever pushy. My mum always was like, if you want to quit, that's okay. We fully support you. They were the most supportive parents, driving me. I mean, the gym I was training at was Heathrow Gymnastics Centre, so it was like a mission and a half for them to get me to and from gymnastics 4 times a week, plus having siblings, so it was a big burden on them, bless them. I actually stepped down to more of a recreational, but switching disciplines to display gymnastics from artistic, and then fell in love with the sport all over again. That fire rekindled, and I did that until I was 18. And then at 18 years old, I'm very lucky and fortunate enough to say that I got to pursue and follow my dream. I'll take a back step already because I just skipped through half my life. Big moment, when I was 11 years old, my parents took me to see a Cirque du Soleil show. And I was like, Mom, Dad, that's what I want to do. And at 18 years old, I went to an audition for a company on par with Cirque du Soleil, and I got offered the job. I withdrew my UCAS, and I was like, Mom, Dad, I'm joining the circus. And I left home at 18 and moved to China and lived in China for 3.5 years. And then I joined my dream company, which was Cirque du Soleil, and I was with them for about 6 years before COVID hit. And then kind of my life changed during the pandemic, and then my life changed again when even post-COVID, after relaunching with the show, etc. So I don't know where you want to jump in and ask anything from there.
It's interesting because I think I saw my first Cirque du Soleil show when I was about maybe 16.
Yeah. Do you know which one?
Yes, I saw it in Las Vegas.
Oh.
It wasn't. It was at the Mirage, and it was the Beatles one.
Oh, the Beatles Love. Nice.
Yes, and I remember sitting there, and I just thought it was the most incredible thing I was ever watching. It was just beautiful.
Yeah.
The colours, the music, and then the art, the dancing, the gymnastics. I just remember thinking, this is a show. Wow. And I have seen a few since, but that obviously was the one that really stuck with me. So yes, I mean, Cirque du Soleil is obviously incredible. And you know what's amazing? That you got to fulfill a dream.
I'm so fortunate and lucky enough to say that, honestly. I did it, and I'm so proud and grateful that I had the opportunity that I had and did it for as long as I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you got to fulfill the dream young. That's the thing as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, now I've got the opportunity to chase more dreams. I'm like, I don't know what it is that I want to do. But yeah, the world is your oyster.
It is, and that can be exciting, I don't know what to do, because
100%.
It is limitless. There are so many dreams and opportunities out there. It's which one is going to turn up tomorrow?
Exactly.
And so before we do obviously talk about what you're doing now, let's go with the first time you said that your life changed. So that was pre-COVID? During COVID.
Yeah, so COVID. So basically, pandemic hit, we all lost our jobs, and I thankfully had a backup plan. I had qualified in 2014 as a personal trainer and never really used my certification. I kept the knowledge up and then coaching a couple of people, traveling on tour and stuff. And so when we all got sent home, I was actually in Russia at the time, I think probably one of the last few people who got to travel there. Came back to London for the first time in about 8 years. So it was a bit weird to come back home, and I'm very grateful and lucky that my family are able to house me. So I had a place to go to, and I was like, okay, I've got this backup plan, let's use it. So launched my own personal training business, jumped in on the hype of the Zoom online workouts, joined a local gym club and started building a client base that way. At the same time, it was the first time where kind of went through a bit of an identity crisis. I didn't know who I was without circus defining me. I've been a gymnast since I was 4 years old, up until, being 28, known as an acrobat, as a performer. I was like, okay, this is weird. What else do I like? What else do I enjoy? And I never went to university. So I was like, okay, what is it that I'm passionate about? What interests me? How can I better myself for the future or prepare myself for later, taking this opportunity to educate myself while we have a pause. Everyone kind of thought it was going to be 3 months or 2 weeks or, anyway, we all know the story. So I decided to study sports psychology, and I just found it so fascinating. Like, even some of the mental exercises I did during performing relate to sports psychology without actually understanding the science behind it. So yeah, I did that, and whilst I was studying, I was like, there's no support network for artists. There's nothing to help during that transition. I felt really lost, isolated, and alone. And I know a lot of people probably felt the same way. And I'm very lucky I had such a good support network around me. I was home, and I had a job that I could at least get some stability source of income coming in. So that was amazing. So that was always in the back of my mind. And then in 2021, Cirque du Soleil called me and was like, hey, we plan to reopen your show. Do you want to go back? And we're starting in London. I was like, oh my God, I'm so lucky. In 2020, the show finished in London. I got to perform and live that dream at the Royal Albert Hall, where I was inspired. And then I got to inspire the younger generation. I was like, oh my gosh, wow, pinch me. Like, what a dream. Absolutely. So I joined Cirque du Soleil in Wakefield for 3 months, training to relaunch Lucia, because a lot of people didn't go back. We had a lot of new technicians, so everyone had to relearn the show. So I did 3 months of training, and then we came to London in January 2022, and to relaunch our show in the Royal Albert Hall. Unfortunately, the week before premiere, I had COVID, so I was out. And thankfully, we had the testing policy that it was at the period, if you tested negative on day 7, you could be free. And I tested negative on day 7, so I was free. And I did the dress rehearsal. Everything went really well. The next day we had something called a private preview. So it's basically like a premiere, but more for press, media, some celebrities and stuff like that before the big premiere, like just getting another rehearsal under our belt in front of a live audience. And unfortunately, during that performance, I had my accident, and I was in denial for a very long time. I was severely injured, didn't really recognize that. And so all of that excitement kind of was just taken away again. So especially with COVID, my job was taken away from me. And now the second time, injury kind of took my job away from me. So I never had that closure of making that decision that I was finished. I'm very much at peace now. But that's kind of leads me to where I am now. And I can go into more details, but I'll pause, and then you can ask and see what you want to hear and learn.
Are you allowed to talk about
Absolutely.
the accident?
Yeah, of course. So you want details?
Yes, I do.
I even have a video if you want to insert the video.
I might just do that.
So I do a stupid discipline called a Russian swing. Hence the name. It's an Eastern European discipline. My team consisted of Russians, Belarusians, Ukrainians, and I was one of... Now there's one other girl who was Australian, but when I first joined the team, I was the only non-Russian on that team. So that kind of gives a bit of perspective, not saying that Russians are crazy, but it's from that region of the world, and they have the facilities to train, whereas it doesn't really exist anywhere else. So yeah, they're like two giant swinging pendulums, and you've got a pusher on the back and a catcher on the other side. So when the swings come up, you're at the front of one swing and you jump the gap to land on the other swing, and your pusher or catcher is at the back over there. You can either go swing to swing, you can either go swing to the same swing, or you can go swing to mat. On the first show that I worked on, I did Russian swing to water. And actually, when Cirque du Soleil contacted me saying, hey, we want you as a character and to do swing to swing, I was like, excuse me? Well, it was always a discipline. I was like, I will never do that. Are you mad? Like, no. But again, it was my dream job. So I was like, yeah, sure. And mentally, I was like, if I'm terrible, they'll fire me. If I hate it, I'll leave. But I fell in love with it, and I've been doing it for many, many years. Unfortunately, the night of performing, there were obviously lots of factors. In training that day, I did my trick. We train normally in harnesses with safety lines, and then whenever you perform, you don't have any lines at all. I did my trick without the lines twice in rehearsal that morning. Absolutely fine. Definitely adrenaline played a big factor. Lighting, I mean, we did validation, which means we test the lights out. But in the show, I wear a wig, and I hadn't trained with it. So in the back of my mind, I have a feeling that is one of the factors I just didn't consider, and that's on me. But anyway, on the day, it's such a small margin of error in Russian swing. And my shoulders literally, I needed to be like this, and I was like this. So I was too much inside the swing, which means when you land on the other swing, you're going to be further back away from it. At the same time, I'm not blaming anyone, but again, with adrenaline, my pusher might have given me too much of a pop. And if I'm inside the swing, that's going to cut me shorter even more. So I'm going to be even further back from the other swing. I remember, there's nothing you can do. As soon as you take off, you physically can feel where you are in the air. I knew I was going to be short, just didn't know how short. And the rule of thumb is you make contact with the other swing as soon as possible. I'm very thankful it was only just my foot, because if it wasn't my foot, it would have then been my hips or my chest, or worse, my head. And that could have been, I count my blessings on that. I'm very, very lucky. So when I came out, I reached out as far as I could with my legs, had a bit too much rotation. First thing to make contact with the swing was my left foot, which just broke. I then managed to grab the swing with my hands, so the rest of my body was on it, and I rode the swing down. And then the next part of impact was my knee. Obviously, if you're holding onto a moving object, it's going to try drag you. It's so powerful, it forced me to release with my hands. The spotters stopped the swing immediately, and I kind of did like a scorpion movement. A lot of people thought I hurt my back, but I'm quite lucky, my back's quite flexible, but it looked worse than it was. And immediately I jumped up and I was like, I'm okay, I'm fine. I remember one of the spotters looked at my foot, and I don't really remember feeling anything when I walked off the swing, and I was like, yeah, I'm okay. Like, you need to say that you're okay, whatever signal you give. And then I sat back down trying to stay in character, and I was doing a full body assessment. I was like, okay. I was like, I think I'm fine. The girl across from me was looking at me, because we then have a jump where we cross each other in a couple of sequences time. And I was trying to assess if I could jump again, if I was okay. And I was like, And I was like, I think I'm okay. She was like, you good? And I was like, give me a second. And then I stood up. As soon as I stood up and I put weight on my left leg, it just felt like jelly. I didn't know the severity of it, but I was like, can I jump? Questioning. You've got ego, you've got adrenaline. And then one of the pushers came up to me and he was like, are you okay? And I was like, I don't think so. And I managed to, I don't know how, but I managed to walk myself off stage, backstage, and to physio. And again, I was like, if physio can come, that would be great, but it's not urgent. It's, physio has to watch the rest of the act to make sure that everything's okay. It's such a high risk act. And yeah, I missed the next trick, and then I told the pusher, he knew because he pushes me for my dismount, the last trick, and so they just cut it, and they continued the act without me, and I went to A&E and did an x-ray, and actually they said everything was fine. I was like, okay, it's just a sprain, maybe tomorrow I'll be in premiere and it'll be fine. I couldn't weight bear at all, like it was very, very swollen. 2 days later I did an MRI and found out that I had broken a bone, but it's a very rare break where basically you split between your big toe. Yeah, so basically let's say if it's the equivalent of breaking here, so the gap is bigger. There was a visual on the x-ray, but if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to see it. So I'd broken my Liz Frank, and at the same time I had torn my deltoid ligament, so I needed a reconstructive surgery. And when they told me I needed surgery, I was like, oh my god, I've never had to have surgery before. I was like, really? Like there's no other option? But yeah, I was really in denial, and I played it down for a very long time. I was like, I'm fine. But was I? I got through it. I'm very thankful I'm back to walking. I live almost a pain-free life, and I am back to flipping around again, and who knows what the future holds. But that was the accident. It feels like a lifetime ago, but I remember when I was in it that it was not easy, and that kind of again brings me back to where I am today, and we can talk about that in a second. I'll try compartmentalize a bit better.
Denial is a really interesting thing, isn't it? I mean, you know that you're injured, you've seen the scans, but it's like you're like, yeah, but I'm fine, I'm totally fine, and someone can look at you and they're like, they're not fine, you're like, I'm fine. It's a really interesting concept.
I mean, you go through the 5 stages of grief, and denial's the first stage. So it's definitely a part of the healing process. But again, I was more upset that I wasn't going to do premiere, and I watched premiere the next day, and it was funny because my family all had tickets, and I was like, please still come, it's a big moment, relaunching after COVID. We didn't know if ever, And my dad said to me, he was like, it's the first time I've actually enjoyed the show without feeling like anxious. He was like, it's a great show. I was like, I know. He's like, I preferred it when you weren't in it. I was like, thanks, Dad. But no, it was a huge milestone, and I was so proud of everyone. It just, you've got ego that you want to be a part of it, and I was. But yeah, again, I got to do the show 2 years before that, and I got to live and enjoy that whole experience. So again, you got to count your blessings.
No, I agree. But I think with regards to the denial, and then also obviously, what you're doing now, but also Cirque du Soleil being a dream for you.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you were living the dream, but then suddenly you were watching the dream.
Yeah.
Your family were there, obviously, watching it as well, but you were watching this dream kind of unsure of, am I going to get back to it, or am I not going to get back to it? And how was that for you? Having the dream,
so,
and it being taken away.
I mean, I'm again like, I still can't believe I got to live. I got to live that dream, and I'm so happy I did it. When we re-signed contracts, I was already a bit uncertain whether I wanted to stay long term. So I only signed a short-term contract with the hope to maybe extend if I felt like I wanted to stay. So when I got injured, my contract ended whilst I was out on injury, even though I thought my injury would literally take 6 months, which was, I don't know why I believed that. But it was like, the doctor was like, 6 months, but I didn't understand it was 6 months until I was like starting to walk again, I don't know who I already signed up for a fitness competition. I was in major denial. I was like sure that my life was going to be back on track. So yeah, it was quite a hard one because my contract ended whilst I was injured. So I had to come to terms with the acceptance that really might be the end for me with regards to performing. I actually visited the show in Spain at the end of 2022. And I was so at peace, and again, I'm just very, very proud that I was a part of that. I'm also the poster child for Lucia, and so wherever Lucia goes, I will always be a part of it, unless they change all the branding and stuff for the show then. But I've left my mark, I've left my legacy, and yeah, I have the closure I needed. It is stunning and a phenomenal show. And if they ever did need me, I would love to go back. But again, it will be depending, because as much as I love the show, I'm also very grounded and happy in London and have my life here. So yeah, it's like finding finding that balance. Yeah.
What character were you?
So did you see the show?
No,
No,
sorry.
but no, don't be silly. So I was, the character's called the Running Woman. She's like part monarch, part Tarahumara, ultramarathon running tribe from Chihuahua, Mexico. It's a Mexican themed show, and she's like a symbol of female empowerment, which like I always speak about my character in like third person, even though it was me, but it's like my alter ego almost, and I learned so much from her. And a lot of the time it's funny because I don't always see myself in her. Like I feel like she's super confident and then I'm not. But as I've grown and kind of, maybe it's the closure I've got from it, is that I'm like now at the same level, I guess. I don't know how to explain it. It's really weird, but yeah, she's kind of like the tour guide of the show and has this magical power, and whenever she's on stage, you know something is going to happen. And then at the end of the show, she takes flight and does the Russian swing, and yeah, it's very beautiful, very poetic.
Yeah, what's really nice is when you were talking about the alter ego thing, and I think it almost sounds like you having this, you know, say alter ego, however long ago it was now, but you feeling at peace with her and very leveled with her. I feel like it was obviously parts of you that always maybe wanted to come out, parts of you that were harbouring, and it was coming out with her. So yes, it felt like two different people once, but now it doesn't, because these parts of you are you now.
Yeah, no, for sure. And especially in the beginning when we had rotations of, or if ever I was sick, or someone else would do my role, and it was always like, like someone else. But now I'm very like, yeah, I'm very proud, because it's remnants of what I put in, and it's so beautiful to see what each other individual brings to that character and watch them blossom and flourish and grow. It's really, really powerful, and yeah, everyone has a little bit of Running Woman in them, and I really like that.
You have a lot of gratitude. It's
Thank
really
you.
nice. I can hear it. No, it's really nice. I can see it. I can hear it.
Yeah, it could also be from injury. I mean, I don't know if you ever did the gratitude journal whilst you were injured. It's not something I necessarily did, but it's something I would think about a lot, and it's something that I'm kind of trying to help others understand as well when they're in that darker mindset as well.
Yeah, gratitude is very important, but we don't realise it.
Yeah, I'm sure you're quite similar, but not being able to walk, like, I will never take for granted again, especially after being on crutches. My heart aches whenever I see anyone on crutches now, like on the tube. That was one of the biggest struggles for me, and I was so stubborn that I was going to get from A to B on the tube, non-weight bearing. I did it, but I reflect now, I'm like, when I walk from Tottenham Court Road Station, that big, I'm like, how the hell did I do this? Like, it's crazy. So yeah, I am, especially for my legs, I'm very, very grateful.
Yeah, I had that today, before meeting you today. I was at the train station, and I love stairs now. I love stairs, because once upon a time I couldn't get upstairs. Yeah. I couldn't walk upstairs. And it was at King's Cross Station just now. And I'm faced with the escalator and the stairs. And I choose to walk up the stairs now. I choose it. Even if the escalators are free and I can get on it fine, I choose to walk up the stairs because
you can.
And as soon as I'm at the bottom of those stairs, I mean, I love that it happens. As soon as I'm at the bottom of the stairs and I look up, I have this like warm, radiant feeling inside, and I'm like, right, we got this. Let's go up some stairs today.
Oh, I love that.
And that's a tiny little small thing, but I love stairs.
It's better for you as well.
Exactly. So I'm telling myself while I'm running up them.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, gratitude, it's you do find gratitude in the smallest of things, and that does help you get through moments, hours, days. So obviously now I do want to talk about where you are now.
Yeah.
And how you've evolved.
So, I've just launched, I say, a product called Evolve. And Evolve is basically to help any athlete, performer make that transition out of performing or sport back into the real world. Again, when I was out injured, there was not much support, and I took it upon myself after studying the sports psychology. I was like, I need something else to help with this. So I did life coaching, and so kind of married life coaching and sports psychology together. And I just did a course with Tass from UK Sport called Understanding Athletic Transitions. And so, I've just launched Evolve to help you through that journey, helping you deal with your identity, which is something, again, I struggled with. I felt really lost and alone. Dealing with maybe if you have a career-ending injury, how are you going to swallow that pill? Dealing with mindset, dealing with tangible skills, like maybe you've been a Cirque du Soleil artist for 20 years and that's all you know and you don't have any qualifications, but you have so many assets to you that you don't even realize that are amazing. You just maybe don't know how to write them in a CV. So it's pulling those skills and helping you understand what you actually can do. And you have the University of Life, which is sometimes is even more than having a degree. So there are dealing with fear, dealing with stress. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of topics that I cover with that. And purpose is another big one. So that's kind of what I'm working on now, trying to help others so they don't have to go through what I did and just make that process a lot easier and smoother. I'm surprised it doesn't exist because it needs to. There's a few sports that have the money and the funding for it. But in the performing industry, even when COVID hit, there was no support, like no funding, nothing in our field of work. We didn't have equity or anything like that. So, I really hope that I can make an impact and a difference and help people evolve and make that transformation.
So then, if people want to come to you with Evolve, how can they?
So right now I only have it on an Instagram page, but you can email or you can send me a DM, and the first session together will just be a consultation. It'll just be talking about what you're dealing with and what you're going through, and then we can talk about how many sessions you necessarily want or need, and then I will cater those sessions, giving you tools to help you through that process. So that's how it works, and I really hope that I can make a difference.
I'm sure you will. Thank I mean,
you.
you already are.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say.
So you definitely will. And I think it's really interesting as well when you were talking about, athletes or people that are, performers and things like that. And once you stop doing it, yes, there might be an identity crisis, but then it's also like, but that's all I know. How will I ever, how do I do anything else? And I was actually talking to someone about it recently, an athlete, and they were saying that it happens a lot. Your whole life is doing one thing, and then for whatever reason it stops, you choose to stop, or it has to stop, you're forced to stop. You sit back and it's like, okay, wait a minute. Yeah. What do I do now? I only know how to do this. How do I bring that into the real world? And ironically, you can bring everything that you learn in your sport or your art and your hobby, whatever it is, into the rest of life, but you don't always know how. You need the tools. You need to be shown, and once you are shown and once you have the tools, the synergy's there, you bring it together. Yeah, so I have something called tangible skills or tools, and picking and choosing certain aspects and attributes that you have that you don't even realize that can facilitate you back into the real world. So again, thinking about transitions, it's never too early to start, whether you've just, let's say I'm 18 years old and I just stepped into the world of Cirque du Soleil. Of course, I'm not going to be thinking about my transition out just yet because I've just started, but I really, you should start thinking about your future. Like, okay, I'm living my dream, but what can I do at the same time? Maybe on the side, maybe I'm studying something to help myself later in life, and already start to separate that identity, because you're not going to be a performer for your entire life. It's not the longest career span. Some people
really amazingly for them, they've done it for, 20, 30 years, but not everyone's body will hold out that long.
And then, speaking of identity crisis, when you had yours, how was that for you? What happened?
I really struggled mentally. I really couldn't separate myself. Also, I hadn't been in London for so many years. It's amazing when you come back because obviously, you've got people are excited to see you, but then you forget that everyone has their lives and they go back to their lives and you're like, what am I doing here? What is my purpose? And then the hardest question, even still today, that it's like, what are you doing now? Because people have this expectation of you to still be doing what you've been doing for the last 10 years. And I still struggle with that. And people can't always understand that transition. And especially when I was going through that identity crisis, that would be like a really stab to the heart. And obviously people don't mean it in a malicious way at all. And they're just curious. But that was really hard for me. But yeah, it was then, I think with COVID, it also helped because you kind of knew no one was doing anything of the sort. So it was figuring out things without circus even existing or being there. And so you got given the time and space to kind of explore other avenues, but you still, in the back of your mind, you had this hope. And I think that really kept people on their toes. And that was another thing as well. It's okay, I need to stay in shape in case. And thankfully we had the 3 months training as well, especially with Russian swimming. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know where I'll be mentally, but it was like riding a bike. It really was. I stepped on it on day one. I was like, oh yeah, okay, it's still in my body. 2 years out, it's fine.
Yeah, no, here we go again.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, yes, the adrenaline, I missed this.
But then you wrote a book in COVID.
I did. I completely went over there, skipped that. Yeah, so, I started writing, it was more of a cathartic thing. It was just a release. Also it was kind of to remind me of what I had done. So I kind of just started as a timeline of what I did. And then I embellished a little bit. And then they kind of separated into chapters. And my dad read a draft. I don't know why I gave it to him to read, but I did. And he was like, you've got a story here. You've got a story to tell. And I was like, oh, yeah. He was like, you could really inspire others with this. It was like, you should embellish more, make it into chapters, write your story. And I was like, oh. And so I did. I did get a helping hand because my English is terrible. I feel bad whoever had to edit it and go through all my spelling mistakes. But yeah, I did it and I'm so proud of it. And I really hope that I can inspire the younger generation to pursue and follow your dreams. Because if you don't try, you don't know. And if you don't put yourself out there again, you're closing doors before they've even opened. So even now, during now and COVID, LinkedIn, I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but I have applied to so many jobs that I am not qualified for at all. To say I'm like, you got to have a hard shell. If you don't like rejection, don't do it. But the amount of rejection I get, and I'm like, and then I've had a few responses, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. If I hadn't done that, you wouldn't get a response. So, yeah, it's it's an interesting outlook, but and I've gone on a tangent. I don't even remember what you asked me.
Well, no, but that's the interesting thing is when you said it's about putting yourself out there, 100%. And even if you don't feel that you're 100% qualified, just do it anyway.
Oh, 100%. The amount of times I've been told I'm a wild card and I've had interviews and stuff and I'm like, yeah. And I feel like I do better in person as well. Again, I'm like, I always say I have the University of Life, and I think that sometimes is better than someone who's just studied a textbook. No offense.
Yeah, no offense.
Yeah,
no
not
offense,
offending
no
anyone.
No offense. But it does, and this is the thing as well, and I think a lot of people think if they don't have the grades, they don't have the A-levels or the university degree,
yeah.
They don't have that, then they're not going to get forward.
100%. And that's something I finished my A-level. So when I left home at 18, I moved to Belgium at the same time I was completing my A-level. So I went back and forth to finish. And then obviously I was really upset when I didn't get the grades. And I was like, oh, you know, I went to quite an academic school and I wasn't an academic. And I got BBC, which isn't even bad at all, you know. And I was like, I'm going to resit. And my mom was like, wait. She was like, you're about to move to China. Like, A-levels are there if you want to redo them at some point in your life. And I was like, okay. And I was really upset at the time. Yeah. Have I ever looked back at my A-levels? Has anyone ever asked me about my A-levels? No. Do I want to resit them? Absolutely not. Like, completely irrelevant. And again, you can always study later in life. I studied at 28 years old doing sports psychology. They didn't ask me for my A-levels. Like, so there's always an opportunity. And I think, especially with performing, your career span is quite short. The earlier you get your foot in the door, the better. And again, studying will always be there. Some people really want to go to university, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, but follow what you want to do. Don't try, you know, go with what is expected of you, you know.
Not always going with the norm.
Yeah, I always say I deviated from the social norms, but that's very psychology based.
But it's a lot of people think that they need to follow what everyone's doing.
Exactly.
Because it's the secure, safe life. Yeah. But
there's pressure as well from school and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I get
Schools, communities, parents, it comes from all different places where there is pressure. But I think a lot of people don't follow their dreams because of the pressure and also just because of fear.
Yeah.
The fear of rejection, the fear that they'll never do it, the fear that they're not good enough.
Yeah.
But if you never try, you never know.
Exactly. There's always fear of the unknown and uncertainty. When I first left my job in Macau, before going to Cirque du Soleil, I think I was 22 at the time, and I had my personal training qualification. I was like, oh, worst case, I'll come home and just do that. But when I then later, because of COVID, when I was 28, that fear and uncertainty was heightened. So it was really interesting to see that with age, it changes and it shifts. But again, it's what is actually in control and what's not in control, and letting go of what is completely out of your control, because otherwise it's just going to take over your like spiral mindset. So yeah, it's very interesting.
I agree. And some of the most amazing things happen when you step into the unknown.
100%.
Yeah, people don't see that. They don't realize that. It's thinking,
and you get stuck and you get comfortable, and that's and you don't grow. So when you take a step outside that comfort box, that's when there's so many more opportunities, and they might not come straight away, and it might be a struggle for, you know, but again, it's a learning curve, and it will only better you for your future, that, in my opinion.
Well, it usually is a struggle.
Yeah.
It usually is a struggle because it's a struggle to show you and, you know, whatever is around you, that this is what you really want and you're determined to get it. So that's usually why it is a struggle, because you have to go through the struggles. People that give up as the struggle hits, well, they're the people that aren't determined enough. They're the people that don't really want the dream. But the people that kind of work through the struggle, they want the dream.
I promise you it's worth it at the other end.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, even like, again, I skipped majorly through my story, but if you do read my book, which is something I did write, you'll see I have the highs and lows, and that I, regardless of being hit left, right and centre, I persevered and continued, and rather to prove anyone else, it was to prove myself that I could do it. And again, when I look back, I'm like, wow, I've grown so much from being a little 18-year-old, like, intimidated, and I was naive, and there are things that happened that I would do differently, that I'm older now, but I'm still very proud of that journey and being determined and building that resilience, and I wouldn't be who I am today without it, so very thankful.
Good. Well, it is true, the saying, no pain, no gain.
100%.
It really is true.
100%.
I was just about to ask you, actually, are you proud of yourself?
Yeah, I am. And I'm, like, if you asked me a couple of years ago, I would have been a lot more, like, shy and modest about it. But no, I've got no shame. I'm very proud of everything I've achieved. And it's not been easy at all. But things in life aren't. So, and that's the beauty of life as well. And when you have the highs, they're super high. And when you have the lows as well, you can make them into moments that you are proud of, that you've overcome. And yeah, like again, a year ago, I literally wasn't on my feet, and a year to like today, I'm walking, and it's such an achievement. And yeah, I'm so proud of that journey in itself, but I'm proud of all the other things that I've done as well.
How is your physical recovery?
Yeah, I've been cleared. I was cleared in March this year, so it was a year and 4 months to the date of my injury. And even then, like, I had physio. I stopped physio last month, and I'm still doing my own things. Some days are better than others, but I can tumble, I can do the things I enjoy. Tomorrow is a big day for me, so we'll see how much impact I can actually take. I'm going to jump off 10 meters and see if my foot can take that impact. So it's going to be an interesting test. But I'm excited about it, so we'll see if I survive.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
But nice. It's so funny you said about jumping off 10 meters, and then I envisioned myself jumping off 10 meters, and my knee was like, no. It wasn't even on my mind. My knee was like, no.
It's like, no, that's
it's like, but that's what's really interesting as well. I'm nearly 2 years past my accident. Since my accident, and there are still firsts that I'm having.
100%.
I haven't jumped 10 meters. I don't know if I will, but
had you done 10 meters before your injury?
Or off of something?
Yeah.
No.
So it would have been a first ever.
Maybe. No, a bouldering wall isn't 10
it's
meters.
not 10 meters.
Then no. No, I used to jump sometimes from the top of the bouldering wall, when I got stuck.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I didn't want to climb back down.
Like
but even that now, I think about bouldering, and I think about getting to the top and getting stuck, and I'm like, I'm not jumping down.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not watching my knee buckle again.
You're a lot more cautious now. You're so much more aware.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious for myself. I want to know, because I used to dive for 3.5 years on the show in China, and I haven't done it since, especially since my injury. I'm like, I just need to know. Yeah. If it reacts badly, then I know maybe that kind of impact is not for me anymore. But again, if you don't try, you don't know. So we'll soon find out.
Well, it is trial and error.
Yeah.
You do just have to keep trying things to figure it out.
It's for my brain as well. I want to know if the spatial awareness is still there, and also just give me a bit of an adrenaline rush. I do miss it.
We have to find things that you used to feel.
100%.
You kind of have to find them again. If that's something you love, you find them again, but in different ways.
So actually, you say that next week, I'm turning 30, and I'm going. Thank you. I'm going skydiving.
Oh, amazing.
I've never been able to do it because I've always been under contract, and I'm not under any contract. So I'm so excited to go and do that, and I'm so excited to compare that adrenaline rush with Russian swing. And sorry, parents, if I love it, who knows? Maybe I'll become a dive instructor. that might be the new dream. New adrenaline kick.
Your parents are listening, and they're like, no.
They're like, oh gosh, what is wrong with her?
They're like, why don't you stop? Why do you want to keep doing it?
Sorry.
Oh, it's very funny. That reminds me of when I went climbing in Yosemite, rock climbing
amazing.
in Yosemite in 2017, and I didn't tell my parents until I'd done it. Because I knew
that's the better way to do it.
Because I knew if I called them and told them what I was about to do, scale a 700 foot, they would have said no.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't have wanted to do it because I just wouldn't have wanted to. So yeah, I told them after.
It's always better after, 100%. And that you survived.
Exactly, I'm here to tell the tale.
Exactly.
Well, good luck tomorrow, and good luck for skydiving.
Thank you very much. A lot of adrenaline. Yeah. Just missing it.
I'm sure skydiving you'll definitely feel.
Have you done it before?
No.
I've done bungee jumping. I'm really excited.
Good. I'm sure you'll feel
a rush.
I'm sure. Something. I'm sure.
I'm sure. If I don't, I think there might be something wrong with me.
Yeah, and you're like, why am I not getting it with this? I've jumped out of a plane.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm sure I will.
I'm sure you will.
Already tomorrow, picturing myself off 9 meters doing tricks, I'm already the anxiety's there. I'm like, okay. So yeah, no, I think my adrenals will work again.
And you'll feel so proud afterwards.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I just want to know.
Yeah.
I just want to know.
No, of course. Well, we need to know for our own minds.
Exactly.
For nobody else's mind except our own.
Exactly.
And then I just want to ask you, if you had, what advice would you give to somebody that's going through let's say, the identity crisis in their own way. And it might be because of something they were doing, the job, the dream, the person, whatever it is that they loved, their dream was taken away.
That's a great question. So with regards to identity, take time to explore, figure out all the different things that you enjoy doing, pursue those avenues, and think about, if you were living that dream, when you were doing that dream, what were the things that you were missing? What did you not have time for? And think about, maybe it's traveling, maybe it's, I don't know, writing. Try take time and give time to the things you neglected, and that will also fill your cup, and it will also give you the opportunity to explore all those other avenues that you weren't able to do. I do a lot of different exercises, especially if you are a performer, trying to see things within the world of performing as well. But yeah, if you're going through an injury, my biggest thing is patience. And even reflecting now, I miss the days where everything was so much slower. I'm like back into that rush, fast pace world, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how, like, I went from 0 to 100, like, is there no 50? But yeah, just embrace it, and it's a beautiful journey, and I know it's hard in the moment because you just want to be on the other end of it, but it is a beautiful journey, and take your time and make sure that you look after yourself properly and that you heal well. Otherwise, if you go in too quickly, you might have more not relapses, but like back steps. But yeah, patience is the biggest thing I learned. And I learned that I was quite an impatient person, and I just wanted to get from A to B as quickly as I could. But yeah, embrace and enjoy the journey, because it is a part of your personal development and personal growth.
Yeah, I love that. And it's, short term for long term.
100%.
What you're doing now in the short term, even if it's mundane or it's boring or you are really impatient, just kind of go with it.
Yeah.
Because for this little short term bit, long term, it's going to all work out. And it's something that I've recently learned and realized is that, every day you think you're not moving forward. But every day you are. And it's only when you're, whether it be a week, a month, a year, 2 years down the line, and you look back and you think, wow, every day I didn't think I was moving anywhere. I actually thought I was going backwards. You weren't. You were moving slowly every single day forwards. And like I said, at some point in your life, you do look back and you think, wow, I really look who I was back then. Now look at who I am. And I didn't think I was moving anywhere. And yet you were.
Are you proud of your recovery and journey?
Yeah, I am. Well, thank you for asking.
No, of course.
Yeah, I am. I really am. And like things like that as well. I remember, moaning to my physio because I was so bored of the exercises and I wanted to squat heavier.
Yeah, and I hear you.
I was like, why can't I squat heavier? And he was like,
so
because you can't. Yeah. You can't. And I was like, but I'm strong enough. He was like, you're not strong enough. So that's the thing. I remember going through things like that and him explaining to me, Talia, don't injure yourself again now, just because you're impatient and you want things now. You have to really, really go with it. And I know I really am proud with myself. And, it's, like I said, it's 2 years, and just to see everything that's happened and everything, be grateful for walking upstairs. And
100%.
It's those things as well. And again, when you said about going from 0 to 100, where is 50? I do feel that somewhere I went 100, and then I have to remind myself that some days, no, let's go to 50 again. Yeah. I sometimes miss those slow days.
Yeah.
When, I do. And it's interesting. I remember my surgeon and my physio at the time telling me that, I think this was just after I'd got rid of the crutches and maybe the knee brace as well. But it was at a stage where it was like, if a train comes and you think you're going to miss it, but if you ran to it, you'd get it. They were like, don't run. I remember them telling me, I think it was my surgeon, who was like, don't run for it. Don't run for that train. And I said, okay. He goes, well, first of all, don't, because you're going to hurt yourself. He was like, you're only going to injure yourself again. He goes, but don't run. And I said, okay, why? He said, because there's another one 2 minutes later.
Yeah.
And it was that really small piece of information that I still take in with my day, like today, every day. And it's okay, maybe fair enough, not all the time, maybe, you know, I have to wait an hour for the train. Okay, fair enough. But in random aspects of my life sometimes, when I'm in that situation where maybe before my accident I would have just, you know, run or take the initiative, get caught up. I stop and I'm like, yeah, but there was a time for 6 months to a year where I physically couldn't do this.
Yeah.
There's going to be the next train or a next this or a next that.
Yeah, after my second surgery and I was put back on bed rest and I was like, really, again? But reflecting now, I'm like, I wish I appreciated that, honestly. Where is that bed rest days now? It's crazy. So in hindsight, you'll reflect and you'll be like, I wish I was more appreciative of those slow moments.
Yeah. And I had 2 weeks after my first surgery at home and then 2 weeks after my second surgery at home. And when I look back, oh yeah, I mean, I was just horizontal watching telly.
Also, I remember after the first surgery, I think I was so drugged for the first 2 weeks that I was miserable and I wanted to get off the medicine as quickly as I could. But yeah, after the first surgery was way worse than the second.
Yeah, I think mine was similar as well.
Yeah.
My first surgery was harder than the second.
And after the first, the worst part is, so it's only uphill from there. Like, you've done the hard bit and it's just more of a mental game.
Oh, 100%. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share today?
I don't think so.
Oh, well then that's perfect. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
As we wrap up today's episode, let Shelli's story serve as a powerful reminder that life's unexpected turns can lead us to self-discovery. So this week, ask yourself, do you ever feel lost? Do you embrace the unknown? And does uncharted territory terrify or excite you? When you find yourself lost in the unknown, don't be afraid. It's in those moments of uncertainty that you often uncover incredible aspects of who you truly are. So stay tuned for more incredible stories and thank you for joining us. Keep moving forward, unapologetically yourself, and never hesitate to embrace the uncharted path. So until next time, stay bold, stay true to you, and remember that you have the power to get back up.